All right, so I just wanted to record this real quick, just to give my thoughts on the whole Derek Chauvin case thing, because it just happened, and yeah, it's pretty cool that he was convicted and all, but I'm surprised it took so long. The trial took like weeks for a murder that we all saw. Oh, I don't have my controls set. I always forget where it's right here. Feels like this button is really small. Um, but yeah, man, he got convicted, so that's pretty cool, I guess. Wait. Yeah, I'll play as this one. And what I find most interesting about this case, aside from how long it took and how divisive some of the discourse was about it, was the right-leaning talking heads, essentially. Like, they always pop up and defend this stuff, no matter how heinous the crime in question may be. Like with that 13-year-old that just got recently shot, and I used to get really angry about this because I was thinking about how these people are like huge influencers, and all these people who like idolize these talking heads and hold on to every word they say, will basically follow suit with whatever argument or narrative they bring without any critical thinking whatsoever. And yeah, that used to make me really angry until I realized that this is exactly the reason why they are currently losing the culture war. Every time they defend something that is blatantly not defensible, they lose popularity. And so with time, they're essentially going to become irrelevant through the right in general is just going to become irrelevant through like exclusion, through defending the wrong people. Like the left is really lucky because the right just doesn't know how to pick their battles at all, and it just works. It just works out in our advantage in the long term. It's really bad for the short term because it abstracts justice in a sense, like with because let's see, George Floyd was murdered. When was he murdered? He was murdered like towards the beginning of the pandemic, right? And it's over a year later, and now we're finally getting a trial and a conviction for the crime. And you could not imagine this crime taking this long to reach the end of the like. You couldn't imagine this trial taking this long to finish in any other first world country, except maybe Germany. But I think Germany's fine, actually. They just have a far right problem happening right now because of the COVID stuff. But yeah, I don't know what I would have done if Derek Chauvin was pronounced innocent. Because my faith in humanity is not very high, and I think that would have done it for me. But yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say, really. You always think you have a lot to say until you get on camera, and then you realize you have like maybe a couple minutes of dialogue. But yeah, I just think it's interesting how it's always the same people defending these people. Like it was to a certain extent. It was like all the media corporations defending George Floyd, or at the very least, they were propagating this idea that George Floyd had been killed by the fentanyl instead of the knee that was on his neck for almost 9 minutes. And while Fox News was obviously like the one that was like, no, this is what happened, the other media sources were essentially like, yeah, this is a theory that's going around. The what do you call the guy who analyzes Ooh, I didn't know you could do that. Analyzes death victims. What is his name? I'm gonna have to look it up, actually. Hey, babe.
Yeah.
What do you call the guy who analyzes dead people to see the cause of death? No, it's not the mortician. That's the guy who takes care of the body afterwards.
It's an autopsy person.
Autopsy. Thank you. That's what the thing is called. So yeah, like the original autopsy was like, there's a lot of fentanyl in his system, so it could have been that. And then I feel like all of the media sources just kind of ran with that story for a little while. You know, until the public outrage, you know, got so bad that they actually decided to do an actual investigation. Really wasn't much to investigate. We all saw the video. But yeah, this is a pretty big win, I guess, for you know, what would you call it? Police brutality justice, but this is nowhere near like the end of this journey towards fixing the American police forces in this country. You know, there's a lot we have to deal with, like qualified immunity. I think is the big one that that people should be prioritizing right now, because that's a big one. Like, the only reason why we have so many cases of police brutality is because the police who do it think they can get away with it. And for the most part, they're kind of correct. It's just that this one was videotaped, and it was so obvious that Derek Chauvin was in the wrong that he absolutely could not get away with it. Especially with this being a massive public event that that caused a what would I call it? Essentially, like that event is the cause of all of the rioting and the looting and just like the general public unrest that happened in the country since that day. Like that singular murder was responsible for all of that. Well, I wouldn't say that singular murder. It's been a buildup of tons of police murders over decades since this country was built. But yeah, I'll be surprised if he gets less than like 20 years for this. And I don't even know if 20 years is enough time, but I assume that he's not going to be treated well in whatever prison he ends up in. Unless he ends up in one of those rich guy prisons, which I don't think is going to happen. How do you end up in a wealthy person prison? You know, the ones with the tennis courts and stuff, and it's just like really nice. Like the prisons look like you're living in Denmark or something. Definitely not here in the South, I would imagine. Yeah, I think the biggest one that we should focus on right now is getting rid of qualified immunity. And I think the next one would be essentially like decommodifying the way our police force work, because you know there's a lot of crimes that you can get away from if you just have enough money, and I think that needs to end. If anything, take you know instead of saying, hey, you owe $200 because you were speeding, just trade it out for community service, bro. Like it's the same thing essentially. You're still paying back to the community because of your wrongdoing, but it's not something that's going to put you in financial debt if you're not you know, making 100K, like 500K a year or something. Because if you're rich, you don't care about those fines. Like no person that is extremely wealthy cares about a $200 fine for speeding. You know. So if it was made to be like a community service instead, like mandatory community service, and if you don't do that, you get jail time. That would be a huge step in making punishment a much more equal consequence as far as the law is concerned. Oh, we also need to take care of prison reform, because the whole the whole idea of the prison system is to rehabilitate and fix the behavior of people who aren't fit for society and then bring them back into society. The United States prison system does not do that whatsoever. So I think that is a big thing that needs to be fixed. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I don't think so. This jab 2 is really slow. Yeah, it's just jab 1. Alright. Yeah, I think that's all I've got to talk about for now. And, yeah, I'm glad Derek Chauvin was found guilty because, I don't know, you might have seen me in the streets. Who knows? I definitely wouldn't just sit in my house after he was found innocent. I'll tell you that. But, yeah, thank you for watching. All of you be careful and have a good day. Bye.